Darnell Owens stood in the dimly lit kitchen of Le Chaudron Bleu, the soft clatter of pans a symphony of impending creation. It was an orchestration only a few could master, and Darnell was among those few. For him, cooking transcended mere sustenance. It was a language, a way to speak to someone's soul without uttering a word. Amidst the swirl of steam and scents, this kitchen was his sanctuary. Every dish he plated conveyed a narrative, often imbued with hints of his Creole heritage, the spicy undertones, the richly layered flavors, testament to a lineage seasoned over generations. Yet with every crescendo of culinary excellence, a storm brewed beneath the surface, a tension unspoken yet all too palpable. On most days, Darnell could ignore it, focusing instead on the perfection of his reductions, the delicate balance of spices, the precise timing required to coax out the finest flavors from simple ingredients. But not today. Today, the murmur of this tension was a raucous din in his thoughts. As the sun began to dip into the horizon, casting shadows that danced across the polished kitchen floors, Henri, the restaurant owner, called Darnell into his office. The request was shrouded in an air of formality that often signaled bad news. Darnell's heart beat unsteadily in his chest, a soft drumline of foreboding. He wiped his hands nervously on the apron tied around his waist, the fabric worn soft over years of dedicated service. "Please, Darnell, have a seat," Henri said, gesturing toward a chair opposite his desk. The office, in contrast to the bustling kitchen, was sparse, almost clinical, with stark white walls devoid of warmth. The only personal touch was an antique clock, its steady ticking an ominous undertone to the conversation. Darnell sat gingerly, his gut instinct telling him what his mind refused to accept. Henri cleared his throat, shuffling papers around on the desk with a deliberation that only heightened the tension. "We've been reviewing the numbers," Henri began, his voice carefully neutral. "And while your work here has been appreciated, we need to make some changes to adapt to our current goals." "What do you mean?" Darnell's voice was steady but laced with an undercurrent of disbelief. "I just received a commendation last month for my work with the menu revamp." Henri hesitated, tapping his fingers lightly against the desk, a small but telltale sign of discomfort. "It's not about performance," he said, avoiding direct eye contact. "It's more about direction. We're thinking about a different approach." "Different how?" Darnell asked, although he already knew the answer was a mask, a facade to half conceal the reality that gnawed at him. In the silence that followed, he grasped for composure, the injustice flickering through him, burning like an ember just beneath the surface. "I'm sorry, Darnell," Henri finally said, his voice a rote expression of regret, lacking genuine sympathy. "We're letting you go." The words landed like a punch. Darnell sat quietly, absorbing the stark, unavoidable truth. He had been fired. Memories of long, grueling hours spent perfecting his craft at Le Chaudron Bleu rushed into his mind, tangled with emotions of hurt and rejection, amplified by the unspoken reason behind his termination, a reality he had encountered before, painfully familiar. Pushing back his chair, Darnell rose with a dignity at odds with the turmoil surging inside him. "Thank you for the opportunity," he said, his voice carefully controlled, then turned and walked out, leaving behind the only place he had called home in New York City. The crisp autumn air bit at Darnell as he stepped onto the bustling sidewalk. Leaves, golden and crimson, swirled around him, echoing the disarray of his thoughts. The city moved on without pause, indifferent to the upheaval in his life. Darnell's feet led him aimlessly, instinctively back to the modest apartment he had made his refuge. Inside, the silence enveloped him, deafening in its starkness. Alone with his thoughts, waves of doubt washed over him. Was it his work? His approach to cooking? More insidiously, the ache of standing out as an African-American chef in a predominantly Eurocentric culinary world lingered like a shadow. A sense of betrayal gnawed at him, sharper than any blade he wielded in the kitchen. In a world that had promised meritocracy, he had been branded by factors that lay outside his control. The whispered judgments of those who questioned his place at the table, cloaked in understated tones, were now laid bare. Yet, even in the depths of his despair, other truths began to stir. A resilience seeded long before in a kitchen bustling with family, where food was love and community entwined. A flicker of something indefinable but tenacious sparked within him, the unmistakable urge to rise. With it came whispers of possibilities. His culinary creations could still sing without the confines of Luchadran blue. Exhaling, Darnell pulled out a sheet of paper and pen, his mind racing with ideas. He recalled the vibrant markets of his youth, the spices traded as laughter rang through open windows, scenes of unbridled creativity and warmth. What if he could bottle that essence, recreate that sense of belonging, and share it with a wider audience? As uncertainty surrendered to determination, Darnell dared to dream again. This fall could be the genesis of something more profound, an unexpected chance to redefine success on his own terms. Stripped of his apron but not his integrity, he resolved to embrace the road uncharted, one where flavors of belonging and triumph, unsoftened by discrimination, would dominate his narrative. In that small apartment, surrounded by silence and possibility, Darnell Owens began drafting the blueprint for Flavors of Freedom. And in that entry point of transformation, a new journey emerged, one of resilience and redemption, a tale only he, with unwavering determination, could pen. The next morning, a fractured sunbeam cut through the blinds of Darnell's apartment, waking him to a world that seemed heavier yet brimming with uncharted potential. The previous night's plans lay scattered across the table, marked with sketches and notes scribbled hastily in the euphoria of determination. The idea was audacious, its very essence anchored in the rich tapestry of Darnell's experiences and culinary heritage. It whispered promises of liberation, not just for him but for those who had never tasted the world he wished to present. Driven by a newfound resolve, Darnell visited the community kitchen that had become his refuge. The familiar clang of pots and the hum of life grounded him. He exchanged greetings with Mrs. Rosario, a sprightly volunteer whose stories of hardship and triumph often intertwined with the meals they served. Her eyes, sharp as ever, held a curiosity as he spread his plans across the counter. "What's all this, Darnell?" Mrs. Rosario asked, her voice a blend of affection and curiosity, as she adjusted her apron with nimble fingers. "An idea," he replied, unable to suppress the hope that had begun to unfurl within him. "A project, really. I want to start something called Flavors of Freedom, a way to share stories through food. We'd celebrate the cultures that built this city, create a space where diversity is our strength, not just a footnote." Mrs. Rosario's smile was wide and warm, her nod a solid confirmation of what Darnell had begun to suspect, that this idea had roots in more than just his own heart. "That sounds beautiful," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We could use a bit more understanding and unity around here." Hearing her words, Darnell felt a reaffirmation of purpose. It was more than an idea for redemption. It was an act of rebellion against the narrow constraints that had choked him. The community kitchen gave him both the space and the audience to experiment. It became a hub of innovation, where he could explore the melding of cuisines, finding harmony in flavors much as he hoped society could find harmony in diversity. On Saturdays, the center buzzed with activity. Volunteers and locals became the first participants in his culinary revolution. Darnell reimagined soul food with hints of French finesse, serving jambalaya with a twist or po' boys with aioli inspired by Provençal kitchens. Cooking alongside him, teenagers from the neighborhood learned not just the art of cuisine but the importance of storytelling, the understanding that every dish was tied to history and identity. The months rolled forward, and spring began to breathe warmth into the city streets. With it came a surge of interest in Darnell's venture, not just from the community but from unexpected quarters. Jamal, a young local journalist always on the lookout for compelling narratives, spent one Saturday at the community kitchen, documenting the vibrant tapestry woven in dish after dish. His article captured attention, reaching the pages of influential food blogs and magazines. Yet, amidst this small blooming success, Darnell knew that validating his vision meant transcending local acclaim. He sought funding to expand, to create a permanent space where flavors of freedom could thrive beyond the borrowed stoves and limited resources. Initial inquiries with investors met with polite refusals cloaked in doubts over marketability and competition. Flavors of Freedom, with its raw authenticity, was too risky for some, too different for others. Even so, adversity only sharpened Darnell's drive. He refused to conform, drawing upon the enduring wisdom of his grandmother, who had always told him, "If they don't have room at the table, boy, you go and build your own." He diversified his search, reaching into social networks, connecting with those who understood not only the necessity but the beauty of his mission. The breakthrough came when Tara Laramie, a well-connected social entrepreneur and food enthusiast inspired by Jamal's article, reached out. Her interest was not only in financing but in mentoring Darnell to navigate the labyrinth of small business development. She met with him at the community center, bringing an energy that electrified the air as they spoke. "Darnell," she said over a shared bowl of spicy gumbo, "this project isn't just about you. It's a testament to resilience and creativity. You're offering the city something it desperately needs. A platform where culinary talent is recognized on its own terms, where flavors tell true, untold stories." Her belief became the catalyst Darnell needed, propelling him towards the dream with renewed vigor. With Tara's guidance and sponsorship, he secured a modest but strategically located venue downtown. Here, Flavors of Freedom would evolve from concept to reality. Darnell meticulously planned every detail, from the atmosphere that would evoke a welcoming embrace to the menu, a dynamic rendition of multicultural tales shared through every course. Opening night was a confluence of emotions, nervousness and exhilaration mixing as heady and complex as the bouquet of spices in the air. The restaurant hummed with anticipation as guests gathered, drawn by whispers of the tales the chef would weave, an audience both familiar and new. Darnell moved through the kitchen, orchestrating the evening with precision and heart, each meal a testament to years of struggle, resilience, and newfound redemption. When the doors finally opened wider, at the heart of it all stood Darnell Owens. In this space defined by flavors bridging divides, his food allowed patrons from all walks to enjoy the universality of good cooking and good company. As smiles and satisfied sighs echoed off the walls, justice found its place not through vengeance but through realization and shared joy. In those moments, Darnell understood fully where his journey had led him, not just to a restaurant, but to a fulfillment only possible through embracing the very essence of who he was, reclaiming the narrative that had momentarily slipped beyond his grasp. Flavors of Freedom wasn't just about food. It was about forging connections and finding one's place at the table in the grand tapestry of life itself. This was his answer, his justice, and, most significantly, his redemption. The morning sun crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across the uneven cobblestones of the downtown district where Darnell Owens was about to make his mark. It was opening night for Flavors of Freedom, and a light mist hung in the air, imbuing the city with an ethereal glow that mirrored Darnell's own muted excitement. The interior of the restaurant was a celebration of Darnell's dreams, a cozy enclave with warm, earthy tones, tables imbued with the scent of freshly varnished walnut, and walls adorned with vibrant murals depicting scenes of cultural unity and shared heritage. The menu was a tapestry of stories, each dish a chapter blending spices and flavors from different epochs of his ancestors' trials and triumphs. Standing there, surrounded by shadows of what was and gleams of what was yet to come, Darnell felt a calmness washing over him like a gentle river, cleansing the remnants of past indignities. But beneath this tranquility hummed an energy akin to a powerful overture, building with each tick of the clock toward the evening's grand debut. In the bustling kitchen, Darnell tightened his apron, the fabric a comforting weight of responsibility and dreams realized. His small team moved with grace and purpose, the rhythm of their collaboration a symbiotic dance honed over months of communal cooking and shared ambitions nurtured at the community kitchen. They were young, gifted, eager to learn, not just about food, but about the essence of grit and perseverance embodied by their mentor. Hattie Brown, a sharp-eyed culinary student with a knack for precision and a taste for bold flavors, approached Darnell with a nervous twinkle. "Chef," she ventured, the informal title rich with respect, "everything is ready. The seating, the lighting. It's all set just like you wanted. Darnell nodded, offering a reassuring smile. You did good, Hattie. Tonight's about more than just serving food. It's about serving our narratives, our histories on plates. You feel me? Hattie grinned, her anxiety softening into warmth. I do, chef. Let's tell them our story. The patrons began to arrive, a mix of community members, curious food critics, and supporters drawn by Jamal's spirited storytelling. The room filled with laughter and anticipation, humming like a finely tuned orchestra. Among the guests were Mrs. Rosario, her eyes beaming with pride, and Tara Laramie, whose confidence and guidance had been crucial to turning an ambitious idea into a concrete reality. As the evening unfolded, Darnell moved through the space with heart and purpose, greeting guests and sharing the inspirations behind each dish. The spice-laden air was alive with aromas of coriander and cayenne, blending seamlessly with the comforting scent of simmering roux. Courses arrived with an artistry that spoke not just of culinary mastery, but of a life poured into every flavorful bite. When Darnell approached Mrs. Rosario's table, her weathered hands clasped warmly around a glossy menu. Her expression spoke of years spent nurturing not just herself, but those around her. Darnell, she hoisted her glass high, to stories well told and flavors well savored. Their eyes met, a silent exchange of gratitude and acknowledgement passing between them. To journeys shared, Darnell replied, raising his own glass in a gesture that encompassed the room. As wine flowed and laughter echoed, the gravity of the moment settled in Darnell's soul like an anchor mooring him to a purpose both greater and deeply personal. His journey from heartbreak to healing wasn't just an individual triumph. It was a collective victory shared with every soul who recognized the power of resilience and the beauty of inclusion. Throughout the night, each interaction became a piece of a larger mosaic. Darnell leaned over an elder, a grandfatherly figure from Granada, who clasped his hand in thanks, eyes shining with unshed tears. You remind me of home, the man said, his voice thick with emotion and accented with the lilting tones of the Caribbean. Of a life that's possible because of men like you. Darnell's voice caught in his throat. I'm honored, he managed, a profound humility underpinning his words. Here was the heart of his enterprise, a connection raw and real, transcending mere sustenance. As the evening drew to a close, Darnell found himself standing in a corner of the dining room, surveying the scene. Every smile, every satisfied sigh, was a testament to the truth that vindication lay not in retribution but in creation, not only in shaping a legacy but also in embracing the richness that came from sharing one's life fully and freely. In those final quiet moments, Tara approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. Tonight was a triumph, Darnell. More than I ever imagined. He turned to her, the gratitude in his eyes indistinguishable from joy. Couldn't have done it without you, Tara. Thank you for believing. Believe in yourself, she replied softly. This is just the beginning. Stepping out into the cool night air, Darnell inhaled deeply, feeling the breath of his ancestors fill him, invincible and infinite. The street was alive, patrons trickling out, satiated and inspired, their voices like a river flowing from this newly forged tributary in the landscape of the city. Justice had found him here not on the terms he'd once imagined, but rather in redemption's gentle embrace, in the strength of purpose rediscovered and the unity of souls alike in their diversity. As Darnell walked into the glow of streetlights, a smile began at the corners of his lips, stretching wide into the night that contained stories still untold and dreams yet to be realized. In his heart, Darnell knew the journey had only just begun, an odyssey not toward a destination sought in vain, but one that danced upon the horizons of possibility in a rhythm all its own, a song of hope, justice, and redemption shared with the world.